Hey, all right. It's the last morning. I'm with Tommy Robinson, talking to him about this trip. So we're just going to pass the phone back and forwards, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'll tell you what. I'll ask the first question. Overall, the difference between Israel, impressions, and what you expected.
Well, overall, the main impression, you know, like when I said to anyone I knew as well, this is what shocked and surprised me. I said to anyone I know, I'm going to Israel. What the hell are we going there for? That's what everyone said. Everyone, my mum, my dad, my wife, don't go. Please don't go. As though like, and then the reality of coming here, we're in a beautiful country. I felt safe the entire time I'm here. More safe. I felt more safe walking around here than I do walking around Luton.
I'll just say, I mean, we walked through refugee camps in Bethlehem and Nazareth, and it was better than Luton.
It was better than Luton because they didn't know who I was.
Yeah,
obviously, if they were fully aware who I was, I think it would have been a whole different ballgame. But in general, the general feeling when I walked around this city, when I've walked around other cities, the general feeling that surprised me with the Arabs as well was there's no attitude from them. I didn't sense any attitude or hostility. Which you'd feel more hostility and attitude from Muslims in the UK. And that's not because of who I am. I mean, before who I was, before I set up the English Defence League, before I criticised the Prophet, before any of these things, you'd get more hostility. One of the most surprising things for me was when we were driving past and there was an Arab camel racing. So we pulled in. There was well over 1,000 young Muslim men.
I've never been in a crowd of Arabs that big in Israel. I mean, I've been in mixed crowds where there will be mostly Jews and some Arabs, but I've never been in a crowd of just Arabs like that.
Okay.
Well, but then there were the Jewish families sitting on the.
Well, that's it. There was well over 1,000 young Muslim men, and we walked straight into the middle of it. And we walked straight in, and to be honest, they didn't really bat an eyelid. We walked in. There was 5 of us, and then in the middle of all of this, I've seen a young Jewish family sitting having a picnic.
Yeah.
With their children, with their family.
In fact, I saw some Ethiopian Jews and some Russian origin Jews, all having family
all
picnics.
Just enjoying themselves in the park.
And 50 metres away, there's 1,000 Arabs watching camels.
Yeah, and even and before and afterwards, those 1,000 Arabs intermixed, walked past, right with the Jewish families. Now, if you had a Jewish family in the UK, they're very visible that they're Jewish, sitting in a field with 1,000 young Muslim men, there's going to be trouble for that Jewish family.
Cool.
That Jewish family will be. So it's not what I'd have expected.
Yeah.
And that's not what I'd have expected to see. The Arabs I've met and spoke to were all pro-Israel.
Yeah.
Which again would be completely the opposite to what I'd expect to find.
Yeah.
I'd have expected to find that even the Arabs, and I'm not talking about. I mean, as we've gone places and I've gone out and I've met different people, I've just pulled them aside and tried to ask them for their own view, because more than anything, so travelling around, so I didn't want to just come here and spend time with Israeli Jews, showing me completely everything from an Israeli Jewish perspective, which is why I took the risk. And if I'm honest, I was very nervous when we were in the back of a taxi going into a Palestinian refugee camp. I was very nervous.
You and me both.
My head was going, and I was thinking, what the hell? Do the pros outweigh the cons of this? Like, the cons are that if someone recognises me, I'm going to be killed. But at the same time, I'm not going to, without getting into that refugee camp, without meeting those Palestinians who live there, without talking to them about who they're angry with, about who's oppressing them, about what the problems are, I'd only have one perspective, which is the whole reason why we took that risk to do that. And by going in there, I'd say that Taz, one of the most best men I've met or I can relate with, how he was, how he spoke.
Actually, the 2 Palestinian guides who helped us in getting into that camp, amazing people, people.
And I related with him. I related with him, and when I got talking to him, the thing this was again another surprise for me. The surprise was that his anger, his frustration, was not at Israel at all. His anger and frustration was at the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority, who he said are purposely keeping them as a tool for the world's propaganda, for worldwide donations. They're being kept in 17 refugee camps they're keeping them in those situations because it benefits their goal and their benefit of aid and their benefit of hatred of Israel and their benefit, all these reasons. So here you have, and when I walked around that area, I've got 3 young children. So I would look at any children, whether they be children growing up under ISIS, or children growing up anywhere, they're children. And I watched and I walked as I walked around there, and I found that in 50 years of foreign aid, in 50 years of millions, hundreds of millions in donations into the Palestinian cause, there was still not even one single park, one swing, one park for anything for the children to do. Now, all the people, what we'd be told is that that's Israel's fault. That's what we'd be told in England. Everyone would be told Israel's fault. Look what the Jews are doing to these poor people. When you go look around there, look at what the situation is. But that's not what I found when I got talking to people in the camp. I got talking to them who their anger and their frustration was at Palestinian Authority, who were purposely doing this. So that was I hugely benefited from walking around that camp.
And over on the Israeli side, it was. What did you learn about the Jewish connection to Israel?
Well, it's the same again. It's like you hear all the time we hear all the time back home that Jews have invaded this land, and then as we're walking around, as we're going to all the tourist destinations, as we're going to the historical sites, you find that there's staunch history and connections going back 2,000 years, non-stop, from historic finds to just everything that always puts Jewish people as their land, and always says in their scripture that this is the promised land, and they've been exiled from this land so many times, and they will come back to the land. It's their homeland. And I don't take what I always took when I talk about. I've always said I'm pro-Israel, and the reason I've said that was I don't say that. I don't even know really the true histories of the land. I said that because I believe that the Jewish people deserve a homeland. Now, it's probably hard to find where. I didn't even realise the historical points to it. It was just simply that I thought a third of these people were nearly wiped out, a third of their race were nearly wiped out in the Holocaust, and they're persecuted because I've seen myself how they're treated, how they're targeted. I've seen myself the security levels they have to take in every European country. I've seen myself the attacks on schools, on children, on rabbis, and all these different things. So then I thought, so these people are going to be attacked and targeted more and more now as we move forward as well, which I think becomes more relevant to have a homeland, because they're going to come under intense hostility in Europe. So then you want to have this community under intense hostility, and you don't want anywhere for them to go. That's how it looks. That's what, as a basic, sitting in Luton without interest in anything like that, that's what I saw. And then I saw that, and then I met a Jewish lad in London, Israel Shalom. And when I spoke to him, I found this is all stories of what's brought me along the way. I found that he'd been targeted hundreds of times growing up in a Muslim community. He'd gone to the police, he'd gone to his MP, he'd gone to everybody, and just as grooming, sexual exploitation of young white English girls was a taboo subject that no one wants to talk about, the other taboo subject they don't want to talk about is the fact that Jewish people are facing intense hostilities by Muslims. What we read all the time is they don't say by Muslims, it's always by Muslims. All this hostility, all this anger, that we're led to believe there's some sort of far right. There's not a real far right in the UK, but this Jew hatred. This Jew hatred is spawned from the mosques. It's spawned from the Quran. The more I read, the more I find. So yeah, it's been a very beneficial trip. I've had an amazing time. Unbelievable. And the things we've done, it's a once in a lifetime trip. And the thing that I want to say to people is, which surprised me, is this is a holiday destination. People should be coming here. But yeah.
Let's pick the camera up. Look, we're sitting on the hotel. This is the beach front. This is November, by the way. Remember, mid-November. This is that's a marina over there, and this path actually runs for about 4-5 kilometers all the way to Jaffa.
Yep.
You can walk all the way up there. The weather's gorgeous today. Yeah, it's a holiday destination.
It's a holiday destination, and I've already now spoke to. One thing I'm gutted about is my cousin Kev would have been desperate to come and do this.
We'll bring Kev.
Yeah, he'd have been desperate to come and do this. But yeah, it's been such an advantage coming. It gives me an opportunity to go back home, and I've already said it to someone there who's been complaining about the Palestinian cause. I've asked if they've been here. Have you been there?
No one's ever been there.
Have you spoke to any of those refugees in those camps? No? Oh, right, okay.
A few of them have. I'll tell you, there's I don't want to go on about. There's left-wing groups that bring people. They give them a tour of horror.
Yeah, but they're being used. That's what I found. Yeah.
They give them the worst stuff about us, and with a bit of balance, when you understand what it is to be attacked every day, you kind of change your views.
Well, no, I always used to say, like, if Scotland was firing water-propelled grenades and rockets into London, every day, thousands.
Like you saw in Sterot, the bus
saw,
shelters.
Yeah, the bus shelters, and we also saw a rocket be fired in, didn't we? On
We
the
heard them being fired in Syria.
Saw
It's
the
unbelievable.
smoke. So, if you're living in this thing, if any country in the world, if people in England were sitting being bombed non-stop by an elected government in Scotland, an elected government in Scotland whose second article on their manifesto says the final day of judgment will not come until all the English are dead, which is what Hamas is. That's their charter. So if an elected government in Scotland said that, then the people of that country elected that government in. That school in Scotland, this is the way they always try to look at it. They were bringing the children up, teaching the children through their educational system that all the English people, to kill an English person will benefit them. They'll get money. They'll go to heaven. If the education system was doing this, and then they carried on firing these grenades at us and rockets at us, does anyone think for 1 second the English government would not bomb them back?
Yeah.
Would not fight that elected government? Now, it doesn't help that elected government, as they do with Hamas, fire rockets. As I've found out from the Christian Arabs I've met here today, one of the things they said is that when Hamas are firing rockets into Israel, they go to Christians' houses to do it. They don't go to the Muslims. They go into the Christians' properties, they stand on top of the Christians' properties, they go to where the Christians are residing in Gaza, and they fire the rockets in because they know that a retaliation to try and hit where the rockets were fired from will result in an attack on the Christian houses, not the Muslims.
Yeah.
So all these things. So I don't think, obviously I don't know the full history, there's probably been a lot of bad things on either side, that there would be. But
It's war.
Yeah. And England would be the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. And us as a people would be demanding, as I'm demanding now, that our government protect its citizens.
Yeah.
So, and when you come and walk around and you understand the beauty of this place and what a country it is, and then just a stone's throw over there, you've got a terrorist organisation who will not rest until they get the death of the Jewish state. Then the thing that annoys me as well, frustrates me more, is that how much of one of the things is I found out about the Palestinian Authority. This is what angered me as well, because before you even mix an ideology with it, you've got children growing up on those refugee camps who are walking around, and every single street corner is a picture of what they'd call a martyr, which is basically a terrorist who's gone and killed innocent people. They're brought up to believe that they are heroes, and I challenged the refugee on that, and I said that's child abuse. That's child abuse. And what I didn't realise is that if a Muslim comes out of that refugee camp, which many of them have done, which we saw, and they kill a Jew, they get a lifetime fund from the Palestinian Authority. Now, that's disgusting and terrible. When you find out that most European countries are paying the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
So our taxpayers' money is going into this terrorist, what I see as a terrorist organisation, which is then funding these young, vulnerable and people with nothing going for them. When I looked around there, I thought, if I was a father on here, I'm going to do anything I can to get my kids out of this refugee camp, because the government of their own government are not helping them. So that was one of the things that stuck on me as well. I thought, this is just organised, they're getting paid to do it, and then when you mix that with the fact that the afterlife is far better than this life, which wouldn't be hard to imagine when you're sitting in a refugee camp.
Yeah, that's a pity.
With nothing, then they've got a formula that works, and until you challenge that, until you challenge the education of that, you're going to be bringing up, and that's the other thing, I didn't sense any hatred from any Jews anywhere.
Yeah.
When I went up to Temple Mount, their attitude, the minute you walk through that thing, their attitude was one of confrontation, of contempt. They spat, one of them smacked straight at us, straight at the floor, for nothing. Because we laughed, because we were talking and we were laughing. He said, what? We were just walking around, mate.
And then you didn't get to see it, but they were playing football up there.
Playing football up there, yeah. That's right, yeah. So the history of it all, and look, we're facing, the main reason I wanted to come, which I've seen so many things, the main reason why I want to come is because I think we're facing in the UK, we're going to face a crisis in Europe where all of our freedoms are going to be attacked. Yeah? And we're going to have to start forfeiting certain freedoms in order for security, which is what they do. The people here do. I saw every single bus stop has huge concrete pillars at the front, so that people can't ram their cars into them, because they've obviously had this problem. Now, how long is it before we have to start doing that in the UK? How long before they start targeting specific things? Which I think it is, in the next 10, 15 years, we're going to be living under the same conditions that Jews are living under in Israel, which is that's one of the other reasons why I want to come. I want to come see how you deal with it, and I can see how you deal with it. You have armed soldiers with machine guns every 100 meters.
Except you don't get the weather.
No, we don't get the weather. That's the only way that it seems to be dealing with it. But it does make you feel safe. Some people say it won't. I felt really safe when I'm standing with the army.
Yeah, it's nice having 19-year-olds with automatic weapons everywhere.
And how relaxed they were. How relaxed they were with you, and how decent. Yeah, we've had again an amazing time.
Great.
And thank you.
But Tommy's going to hold. I'm just going to say a final thing. Tommy, there's no big Zionist conspiracy bringing Tommy out here. He and his mates paid for their trip.
No one
overpaid for
their
trip.
That's the one that, like, I get it told it all the time. Like, oh yeah, look, you're a Zionist puppet. I think, what are you talking about, man?
I'm already copping the flack on social media for bringing the extremist Tommy Robinson, people who have no idea who you are. And I've known you and the EDL, since the EDL days, and I've read your book. I've followed you properly, and I think I've probably watched everything that's ever been videoed of you. And so I knew you. And the minute I met you, which is exactly a week ago on the beach here in Tel Aviv, you're the guy I thought you were. You're exactly. There's no misrepresentation, and it's so easy to see that you're a real, genuine person who really, really, really is terrified for what's happening in his country. And that's a concern that lots more people should have. They shouldn't walk blindly into what they're getting into. And I like the example of Israel because I think we've managed to do this balance a little bit. We've got a big Arab and Muslim population living in Israel, and we've managed some way to come up with a model of coexistence. The Palestinians, it's a bit different still, but as far as I'm concerned, if we were left alone, we'd do it better than with the world, always on our head telling lies. So that's why I was so happy when Tommy said he wants to come, and I put together this thing to bring him. And we had a great time, and I had a great time, and I'm so grateful to you for coming with your friends, and
Thanks, man.
love it.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
That's it. Tommy on the beach. Now I'll let him relax.
Yeah.